In 1991, in a cold operating room in Phoenix, Arizona, when her brain was drained of blood, when her heart had stopped, and her body existed in what doctors call clinical death, Pam Reynolds saw everything. She watched surgeons work. She heard conversations. She described instruments, details that medical staff later confirmed were impossibly accurate. But here's the part that haunts me. She said she wasn't just observing. She was there, in a place where time had evaporated. No before and after. No concept of the present moment. Just an eternal now. What if that now isn't the exception? What if it's the foundation of everything we call time? What if everything, past, future, all of it, already exists, but we're only seeing one thin slice? Listen closely, because somewhere before this ends, you'll realize that time isn't passing around you. It's unfolding through you. You ever notice how memory doesn't feel like the past? When you remember something vivid, your first kiss, a childhood room, the smell of your grandmother's kitchen. Where exactly is that moment? It's not back there in some dusty archive. It's here, right now, alive in your consciousness. You can touch it, feel it. It's as present as the words you're hearing right now. Here's the wild part. Neuroscience confirms this. When you recall a memory, your brain doesn't pull up a video file. It reconstructs the experience in real time, using the same neural networks that fired during the original event. The past, neurologically speaking, only exists in the present. So if the past lives in the now, where exactly did it go? And here's where it gets interesting. Physicists have been saying something even stranger for decades. According to Einstein's block universe theory, time doesn't flow at all. Past, present, and future exist simultaneously in a four-dimensional structure, a cosmic loaf of bread where every moment is a slice and all slices exist at once. We're not moving through time. We're not riding some cosmic conveyor belt from past to future. We're four-dimensional beings, stretched across space-time, experiencing different slices of ourselves sequentially. Think about that. The version of you that's watching this, that's just one cross-section of a much larger temporal structure. The you that was born, still there. The you that will die, already there. All existing at once in this vast, timeless block. But here's the thing. If all moments exist simultaneously, why do we experience them one at a time? Why does it feel like time is moving? Let's talk about something that rarely makes it into physics discussions. Consciousness might be the answer. Quantum mechanics has been whispering this secret for a century. When you get down to the subatomic level, particles don't exist in definite states until they're observed. They exist in what physicists call superposition, a ghostly realm of probability where multiple states coexist simultaneously. The electron is here and there, and everywhere in between, until someone looks. Then it collapses into a single location. The universe, at its most fundamental level, doesn't seem to prefer definiteness. It prefers possibility. And consciousness is what turns possibility into actuality. Now here's where it gets wild. Some physicists, like Julian Barber, argue that time doesn't exist at the quantum level at all. What we call the passage of time is an emergent property, something that appears at our scale but isn't fundamental to reality itself. Imagine you're watching a movie. Each frame on the film strip exists simultaneously. The entire story, beginning, middle, end, is just sitting there, static, complete. But when you watch it, you experience it as motion, as time, as a narrative unfolding. Your consciousness is the projector. The block universe is the film. And what you call now is just the frame currently in focus. Let's be honest, this sounds insane. Everything in your experience tells you that time is real. You age, food rots, relationships end. The universe has a clear arrow pointing from past to future. But here's what most people never realize. That arrow might be a trick of entropy, not a feature of time itself. Entropy, the tendency of systems to move from order to disorder, gives us the illusion of time's arrow. You can scramble an egg, but you can't unscramble it. That's not because time flows forward. It's because there are vastly more ways for an egg to be scrambled than unscrambled. The universe isn't moving through time. It's just moving through states of increasing disorder. And our brains, reading those states, construct the sensation of flow. You know what's wild? Studies of people with neurological damage to their temporal processing centers show that when the brain's timing mechanisms break down, people lose the sense of time passing, but they don't lose consciousness. They exist in a kind of eternal present, where events happen but don't seem to move forward or backward. They've glimpsed what Pam Reynolds described, what mystics have described for millennia, what physics now suggests might be the actual structure of reality. Time isn't a river we're floating down, it's an ocean, and we're standing still in its depths, while our consciousness creates the sensation of current. But here's the part that changes everything. If time is an illusion created by consciousness, then every version of you, past, present, future, is equally real and equally now. The child you were, not gone, still there, still experiencing that moment in the eternal block. The person you'll become, already there, living that future, in the same timeless space. Think about grief for a moment. When someone you love dies, the pain comes from the belief that they're gone, that the time you shared is severed, unreachable, erased from existence. But in a block universe, nothing is erased. Every moment you shared with them still exists, as real and present as it ever was. Not as a memory, but as an actual location in space-time that you can't access from your current slice of consciousness, but which is nevertheless there. Your grandmother's kitchen, the moment she laughed at your joke, that's not in the past. It's in a specific coordinate of the block universe, as eternally present as the moment you're experiencing right now. Death doesn't erase anyone. It just means their consciousness has finished moving through its sequence of slices. But the slices themselves, they're permanent, immortal, fixed in the architecture of reality. And here's the twist. The same is true for you. You know that moment when you're falling asleep and you suddenly jerk awake, feeling like you've fallen? Some researchers think that's your consciousness briefly losing its grip on linear time, experiencing multiple moments at once. Or those dreams where you live entire lifetimes in what clock time says is minutes. Where's the time in those dreams coming from? Your brain isn't creating more time. It's accessing different relationships to time, different ways of experiencing duration. What if consciousness isn't bound to time the way we think it is? Pam Reynolds, during her surgery, when her brain had no blood flow, when every instrument said she should have no experience whatsoever, she experienced more. Hyper-awareness, crystal clarity. She described it as being more awake than I've ever been in my life. When the physical substrate that we think creates consciousness was offline, consciousness got sharper. Here's something that should make us pause. Precognition studies. For decades, laboratories have run experiments where people's physiological responses, heart rate, skin conductance, change before they're shown disturbing images. Before, as in, their bodies react to future events. The effect is small but statistically significant across hundreds of studies. It's reproducible, and it makes zero sense if consciousness is bound to linear time, unless consciousness isn't bound to linear time. Here's something you already know, even if you've never articulated it. You've had moments where time felt different, when you were in a moment of intense stress and everything slowed down, when you were in flow and hours passed like minutes, when you were bored and minutes stretched into eternity. Time perception is radically subjective. Clock time stays constant, but experience time is wildly variable. Which one is real? You're probably thinking, clock time is real. Experience time is just subjective distortion. But here's what's backwards about that assumption. Consciousness is the only thing we directly experience. Clock time is an abstraction, a measurement tool. We never actually experience seconds ticking by. We experience now, always now, in varying textures and densities. The map is not the territory. The clock is not time. The clock is a device we invented to coordinate our shared experience. Real time, experiential time, is something else entirely. Think of it this way. You've never left the present moment. Not once in your entire life. You've never experienced the past or the future. You've only ever experienced now. So what if now isn't a moving point on a timeline? What if now is the only thing that exists, and memory and anticipation are just contents within now? But here's where it gets uncomfortable. If all moments exist simultaneously, if our consciousness is just illuminating different slices of an already complete structure, then in a very real sense, your entire life has already happened. Your death has happened. Every choice you've made and will make has happened. This sounds like fatalism, like nothing matters because everything's predetermined. But that's not what the physics says. The block universe doesn't require determinism. Quantum mechanics, with its fundamental indeterminacy, can coexist with the block universe model. All moments can exist simultaneously while still containing genuine randomness, genuine choice. You know what's wild? We already live as if the block universe is true. When you look at a photograph, you don't think, this moment is gone forever. You think, this moment happened, and here's evidence of it. We treat the past as real, just not accessible. The block universe just extends that intuition forward. The future is real, just not accessible yet. But wait, there's more to this. If consciousness is what selects which slice of the block universe you're experiencing, then consciousness might have more freedom than we imagine. What if the you that's watching this is just one probability thread through the block? What if there are multiple versions of your life, multiple paths through the same structure, and your consciousness is navigating between them based on the choices you make? This isn't science fiction. This is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics taken seriously. Every moment at the quantum level, reality branches into multiple possibilities. Usually, we say those other branches are elsewhere, different universes we can't access. But if time is an illusion and all moments exist simultaneously, then those other branches might be accessible to consciousness in ways we don't understand yet. Maybe déjà vu isn't a glitch. Maybe it's your consciousness briefly perceiving a different thread through the block. Maybe intuition isn't guessing. Maybe it's your consciousness sensing the probability landscape of near-future slices. Maybe the future isn't fixed because your consciousness is still choosing which branch to follow. Here's what gets left out of the conversation. Mystics have been saying this for thousands of years. The Hindu concept of Brahman, the eternal, unchanging reality underlying all phenomena. The Buddhist notion of dependent origination, that time and causation are mental constructs overlaid on a more fundamental reality. The Christian mystic Meister Eckhart, who said, "There is no yesterday nor any tomorrow, but only now, as it was 1,000 years ago, and as it will be 1,000 years hence." These aren't primitive superstitions. They're experiential reports from people who, through meditation or mystical experience, managed to perceive reality without the brain's usual temporal filtering. And here's the incredible thing. Their reports match what modern physics suggests. Pam Reynolds, lying on that operating table with no brain activity, didn't experience chaos or nothingness. She experienced clarity, order, a timeless realm that felt more real than ordinary reality. She experienced the block, and when she came back, when her consciousness re-engaged with sequential time, she described it as jumping into a pool of ice water. Coming back to time felt constrictive, limited, cold. What if what we call normal consciousness is actually a narrowed, filtered version of something much vaster? What if your brain isn't generating consciousness, but constraining it, focusing it, directing it through one slice at a time so you can function in a physical world? And what if death isn't the end of consciousness, but the end of that constraint? The end of sequential experience? You know that feeling when you're deeply absorbed in something, reading, creating, loving, and you completely lose track of time? That's not you forgetting about time. That's you experiencing reality more directly, with less temporal filtering. The Greeks had two words for time: Kronos and Kairos. Kronos is clock time, sequential time, the time that marches forward. Kairos is the eternal moment, the time of significance, the time that artists and lovers and mystics inhabit. We've built an entire civilization around Kronos and forgotten Kairos almost entirely. But here's the thing. Kairos might be the more fundamental reality. Kronos might be the construct. Think about the most meaningful moments of your life: your wedding, the birth of a child, the death of a parent, the first time you realized you were in love. Do those moments feel past, or do they feel eternal, somehow always present, always accessible, woven into the fabric of who you are? That's not nostalgia. That's not sentimentality. That's your consciousness recognizing that those moments don't exist in the past. They exist in the eternal structure of your four-dimensional being. You are not in time. Time is in you. Let's talk about what this means practically. If time is a construct of consciousness, if all moments coexist, if the block universe is real, then what? First, the past isn't fixed in the way you think. Yes, events happened, but the meaning of those events, the way they're integrated into your consciousness, can change. When you do the work in therapy, when you reframe your childhood, you're not changing the past. You're changing your relationship to the eternal present of those moments. The block universe doesn't mean fatalism. It means every moment is alive, and your consciousness is constantly reweaving its relationship to all of them. Second, the future isn't waiting for you. It's already there in some sense, in the probability structure of the block. When you visualize your goals, when you set intentions, you're not creating the future. You're selecting which thread through the block your consciousness will follow. This is why visualization works. This is why intention matters. You're not manipulating external reality. You're navigating the probability landscape of your own four-dimensional existence. Third, the present moment isn't a moving point you're trying to catch. It's the only thing that exists. Every spiritual tradition that emphasizes presence, mindfulness, being here now, they're not teaching you a technique. They're pointing you toward the fundamental structure of reality. You can't be anywhere but now because there is only now. The past and future are conceptual overlays on the eternal present. Every experience you've ever had, are having, or will have happens in the now. Here's the part that changes everything. If time is a construct of consciousness, then you have more power over your experience than you've been taught. You're not a victim of time, aging helplessly, losing precious moments, racing against the clock. You're consciousness itself, temporarily focused on one slice of a vast, timeless structure that contains all of you, past, present, future, in eternal coexistence. The child you were still exists in the block, experiencing that moment forever. The elder you'll become already exists in the block, experiencing that moment forever. And the you that's watching this is the meeting point, the conscious awareness that's currently illuminating this particular slice. Pam Reynolds said something haunting after her experience. Death is the worst thing that can happen to us? What an incredible thing. I don't fear death anymore. I fear pain, but not death. Because she saw that consciousness doesn't end. It just stops moving through sequential slices. The block remains. All moments remain. Nothing is lost. You ever notice how when someone dies, people say, they'll live forever in our memories? We say it like it's a metaphor, a comforting lie. But what if it's literally true? What if consciousness and memory aren't local phenomena occurring in individual brains, but access points to a shared, timeless field where all moments of all beings exist eternally? What if when you remember someone, you're not creating a simulation of them? You're connecting with the actual, eternal reality of their existence in the block. Science can't prove this, but science also can't explain consciousness at all. Can't explain why matter arranged in certain configurations suddenly has subjective experience. Can't explain the hard problem of consciousness, why there's something it's like to be you. Maybe the reason we can't explain consciousness from matter is because we have it backwards. Maybe consciousness is fundamental, and matter is what consciousness looks like from the inside of the sequential time construct. And here's the twist. If you've made it this far, if you're still listening, then in some sense you were always going to make it this far. This moment, your consciousness encountering these ideas, already existed in the block universe. It was always going to happen. But that doesn't make it less real, less significant, less choiceful. The block universe doesn't eliminate meaning. It preserves it. Every moment matters because every moment is eternal. What you do now doesn't echo in time and then fade away. It's inscribed in the permanent structure of reality. You are not in time. Time is in you, and the you that's watching this, the you that was born, the you that will die, all exist simultaneously in a timeless field you only glimpse as now. Pam Reynolds saw it when her brain stopped, when the filtering mechanism of sequential consciousness shut down. She saw all of her past, future, self coexisting in eternal now. You don't need a near-death experience to glimpse it. You just need to recognize what you're already experiencing, this moment, this eternal, ever-present, timeless now. It's all there ever was. It's all there ever will be. And it's all you ever need.